Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. With all due respect to our next guest, two monologues have done more to advance climate and energy realism in the last year than all of the op-eds and pronouncements from policy wonks. I'm talking, of course, about Landman. And, well, for example, Billy Bob Thornton on windmills and solar panels, speaking to that corporate lawyer
from Northwestern.
Exactly.
With her hand.
Any idea how much diesel they have to burn to mix that much concrete or make that steel and haul this out here and put it together with a 450-foot crane? You want to guess how much oil it takes to lubricate that thing or winterize it? And its 20-year lifespan, it won't offset the carbon footprint of making it. And don't get me started on solar panels and the lithium in your Tesla battery. And never mind the fact that if the whole world decided to go electric tomorrow, we don't have the transmission lines to get the electricity to the cities. It'd take 30 years if we started tomorrow. And unfortunately for your grandkids, we have a 120-year petroleum-based infrastructure. Our whole lives depend on it. And hell, it's in everything. That road we came in on, the wheels on every car ever made, including yours, it's in tennis rackets and lipstick and refrigerators and antihistamines, pretty much anything plastic. Your cell phone case, artificial heart valves, any kind of clothing that's not made with animal or plant fibers, soap, hand lotion, garbage bags, fishing boats, you name it. Everything. And you know what the kicker is? We're going to run out of it before we find its replacement.
It's the thing that's going to kill us all. As a species.
No, the thing that's going to kill us all is running out before we find an alternative. And believe me, if Exxon thought them things right there were the future, they'd be putting them all over the god place. Getting oil out of the ground is the most dangerous job in the world. We don't do it because we like it. We do it because we run out of options. And you're out here trying to find something to blame for the danger besides your boss. There ain't nobody to blame but the demand that we keep pumping it.
Wow.
I
hear that. I could hear it all the time.
He's wrong about the supply of fossil fuels we have, the projections on that. But nonetheless, yeah, that was a pretty good one. And then, of course, John Hamm, as said oil executive in a meeting with other oil executives.
So much as it is the...
It's not a concern, Bob?
It's not the concern. I mean, 60% of American electricity still comes from fossil fuels, 39.8% from natural gas alone, and that number is climbing. Now, nuclear, that's maxed out, unless they build more reactors, and that's not going to happen. Nuclear is not an option for climate change advocates, even though it's our cleanest and most reliable form of energy. Wind is twice as expensive as natural gas, and solar 4 times as expensive. Plus, on its best day of the year, a solar power plant generates electricity for about 8 hours. All our electric vehicles are doing is exporting their emissions to the power plant. Our greatest potential for growth is in exports. China only consumes 14% of the world's petroleum reserves. India is at 4.9%. Russia, a little over 3%. We feel that our lobbyists' focus should be on easing the regulations on exports. Our LNG exports to Europe last year climbed to 64% of total exports.
Excuse me, if I may. What you're not seeing in the States is this rabid opposition to fossil fuels of any kind, to their use, to their extraction.
38% of the UK's electricity came from natural gas piped in from Norway, Steve.
But,
Gentlemen.
But 1/4 is from wind, which I agree is unreliable and expensive, but, and this isn't important, but...
Steve. Energy consumption is not a social issue,
The hell it's not. It's deeply social. And we must endeavor ourselves to educate the world about our commitment to cleaner energy.
Will you shut the up? My God, this is why I don't come to these things. Y'all have been in so many shareholder meetings, you forgot what it is we actually do for a living. We are well diggers. We don't, nor can we ever control how our product is used or what it is used for. There's nothing I can do to make an engine run cleaner because I don't build engines. I don't care what the governor of California says about electric vehicles. I don't care how many career college students block London traffic or spray paint a sculpture. I care that the price of oil stays between $76 and $88 a barrel. That is what we should be discussing. The world has already convinced itself that you are evil and I am evil for providing them the one thing they interact with every day, and they will not be convinced otherwise. Stop wasting your time. Stop wasting mine.
For more on this, well, maybe do a little fact-checking, too, if you'd like. Bjorn Lomborg is the president of the Copenhagen Consensus think tank and author of Best Things First. Bjorn, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, it's great to be here.
You don't have to use the profanity of a Billy Bob Thornton or a John Hamm, but you know, how about that for? I mean, I was thinking of these clips when I read your piece about pulling the plug on corporate virtue signaling, which I thought Billy Bob Thornton and John Hamm, by way of Taylor Sheridan, did a nice job of doing in the series.
Oh, absolutely. So it's a very entertaining conversation, and I think, I'll try and do it without the expletives. But fundamentally, what we have to recognize is that we're fundamentally a fossil fuel-driven world. One of the things that I think surprise a lot of people is the fact that most artificial fertilizer comes from natural gas, and that actually feeds half the world's population. So when people tell you, oh, just stop oil, just stop that fossil fuel thing, they're literally telling you to stop 4 billion people from being able to survive. As one Nobel laureate put it, I don't see 4 billion volunteers to leave the planet. It's just not likely that this will happen, and we have no sense of the proportion. Now, there are some inaccuracies, as you point out. We're not running out of oil. Actually, wind turbines do provide more electricity or more energy than goes into producing them. But the point we need to remember is when it only produces power when the wind is blowing, it's not something we can rely on. We literally need backup for almost 100% of what we put up of solar panels and wind turbines. And that, of course, is why it becomes so expensive. And this is why we need to recognize currently we just can't go to net zero. When people tell you that, they're really just virtue signaling.
Now, yesterday was Earth Day, Bjorn Lomborg. How did you celebrate?
I'm up here at Yale University. I gave a talk on exactly how we should think about dealing with climate change and be much smarter about it. And there was a lot of students here. Not all of them were thrilled about it, but I think we really.
I was going to say, did they
walk out?
Were you able to get your remarks out without being shouted down?
Oh yes. The world has changed a lot. There are certainly people who were disagreeing, but it was a constructive disagreement. But the reality, of course, is. Remember, we've had 55 Earth Days by now. And back in 1970, when it started, the world was really a much, much worse place. Remember, rivers were catching on fire. A lot of the cities around, especially in the rich world, were still incredibly polluted. We have cleaned up most of our act, and that's a tremendous achievement. Why? Because we're rich. Because when you're rich, you can actually afford to worry about many other things, like, for instance, getting cleaner air and making sure you deal with many of the other environmental problems, reforesting and all these other things. So it's really something that we should congratulate ourselves on. Earth Day means we've actually done a lot better. And again, remember, what is it that's done the really most for the poor part of the world, which is still mired in many environmental problems? It's prosperity. When people don't have funds, they have terrible lives, and they also have incredibly polluted lives. They'll cut down their forests, but also they will have lots and lots of especially indoor air pollution. Indoor air pollution used to kill about 7 million people each and every year. We don't think about that, but for many of the world's poorest, they cook and keep warm with dirty fuels like dung, cardboard, and wood. That has reduced by more than 4 million deaths. So we're now down to about 3 million deaths. There's still a lot to be done, but we should celebrate the fact that prosperity has lifted a lot of people out of poverty and lifted them out of some of the worst environmental conditions, something much worse than what we can imagine.
Yeah, it's done a lot more. Capitalism's done a lot more for the environment than, say, Earth Day, Earth Hour, predictions of end times from politicians. But I wonder that you're at Yale, so I'm fascinated to hear what the response was for those skulls full of mush, to borrow a Russianism, matriculating at Yale, who think that they're on the side of the downtrodden when they're not. I just, like, when you do a riff like that, what do they say?
Well, again, I think most people appreciate the idea that I'm not coming there and telling them, capitalism is great and we should all just, ignore all the environmental problems or anything. I'm simply pointing out you've got to realize that the current way that we're talking about many of these problems, like, oh, we should just go net zero, just not going to cut it. We're not going to do that because people don't want to leave behind their kids in poverty or not deal with many of the other issues that we have to fix. So we need to find, for instance, innovation to fix climate change rather than telling everyone, I'm sorry, you can't have your car, you can't fly, you can't eat as much meat, and all these things. That'll never work. That'll never fly. And I think when you tell people that, they sort of start thinking, maybe there's something to that. I mean, a lot of them were still resistant, and we're like, what about, and pushing back. And that's fine. That's what you should do.
What they say? What about what? What do they say? What about what? When they say what about? What's the pushback?
Well, don't we have a responsibility to the world to go in advance and sort of lead the way and show the world this can be done, even if it's going to cost us a lot? And then you point out, well, that's what Germany has done for 15 years or more. They've spent about $700 billion on trying to go net zero. Remember, in 2010, when they did their first legislation, they got 79.6% of their energy from fossil fuels. The last year we have data, they got 79.3% of their energy from fossil fuels. They've literally not reduced it. And what they've done, of course, is they've pushed away most of their heavy industries. They've gotten a big hole in the budget. They have lots of the problems. Nobody looks at Germany and say, oh, thank you for walking ahead of us, and we all want to become Germany. People are looking at it and saying, oh, please don't do like Germany. And that's, of course, the way you need to teach young kids as well. This is not about leading the way in an unsustainable fashion. It's about finding smart solutions. That's what, and then back to your point, that's what capitalism does. If we focus on getting a lot more innovation, this is one of the things that the U.S. does so well. Do a lot more innovation. That's what's going to fix a lot of the problems, both with climate change and most other environmental problems. That's what's fixed in the past. Remember, Los Angeles was terribly polluted in the 1950s. We didn't fix it by telling everyone you can't drive your car. We fixed it with the catalytic converter.
Yeah, and so when Chevron announces, as it did this week, oil and natural gas project in the Gulf of America that's going to produce upwards of 75,000 gross barrels of oil daily, that's good news. That's good news for America because supply reduces cost, and good news for a lot of the rest of the developing world because we can, as soon as when we're energy independent, we can export affordable oil and gas to other countries.
Yeah. So, look, the U.S. is exporting a lot of energy, and that's great for the world. Obviously, in time, we have to find even better sources of energy. But right now, we're fossil fuel-dominated civilization. We get more than 4/5 of all our energy from fossil fuels. And remember, while the U.S. and Europe has enough energy, most of the rest of the world has terribly little energy. The average person in Africa, so in the poor part of Africa, gets about the energy that you and I use in 1 week is what they have for an entire year. There's something fundamentally unsound about that. And when we tell Africans and others, oh, actually, you should just leapfrog and go straight to solar and wind, that's essentially a recipe to make sure that they never get rich, that they never get out of poverty. And so what we really should make sure of is that they get the opportunity to do just what we've done. And it's no big surprise that that's what they want.
I noted, I think it was just yesterday, that the Maryland governor, Wes Moore, who's an aspirant for national office, I believe, he has walked away from the EV mandate that they modeled after California there in Maryland. So there really does seem to be, once you don't have sort of backdoor Green New Deal government largesse underwriting all of these gambits, the reality of the market and the energy needs of a vibrant civilization require more sensible energy policy. It just institutes a discipline that politicians are unwilling to institute by themselves often.
Yeah. I mean, this is always just a virtue signal. I mean, when you actually look at most people, what they say they want a gasoline-driven car for a lot of different reasons. You can just tank it up in 5 minutes, and you can go wherever you want. Look, electric cars are great for some people. But once you get to the point where you're going to tell a vast majority of people, no, you can't buy the car you actually want, you have to buy an electric car, of course people are going to rebel. So it was always a given when you get close to the 2030 or 2035 deadline that a lot of countries around the world and a lot of states here in the U.S. have put as a target, they would, reconsider, because you can't do that. Electric cars are great for some things, and we should have them as an opportunity. If you have a home where you can recharge it at night, and if you only drive, small distances, great. But a lot of people don't. What are you going to do if you live in an apartment? Where are you going to charge your car at night? All these things that we just don't talk about that are so obvious, and you just need to have that conversation.
Yeah, it's tough to get some people to be practical and live with their feet planted on terra firma, isn't it? But I think, I've said, we've been talking to you for years. Your angle of incidence on this is the best, in my view, because it goes right to the idea. It's not a discussion about capitalism. It's so much a discussion of practicality. And you want to be a good person and advance policies that lift people out of poverty. You want to be a good person and clean up the environment. Well, then you support the capitalist approach to energy production, and combined with the innovation that that engineers can bring forward. But it is in markets. It is not in central planners and fashionable ideas that you try to impose on the rest of the world. The human cost that you talk about with respect to things like the energy that goes into producing the fertilizer that is needed to produce the food to feed 4 billion people. I mean, it's just so stark. I find it very difficult to believe anybody can respond to that, at least on the merits.
No, and of course, the reason why we have that conversation is really just because we forget to be realistic. So you're absolutely right. Great to talk to you, Dan.
Bjorn Lomborg, president of the Copenhagen Consensus think tank, author of Best Things First. Thank you as always, Bjorn.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
This wasn't how Patrick pictured himself in retirement. Instead of playing golf every day, he could barely walk because of his severe knee pain.
It hampered everything because it hurt to walk around the golf course. It hurt to swing, just pretty much hurt doing anything.
But the groundbreaking regenerative treatments at QC Kinetics changed everything for Patrick. QC Kinetics uses your body's own healing properties to help repair and restore damaged tissue in your knees, hips, back, and shoulders. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime.
The turnaround's been amazing from where I was to where I am now. I am gone from a 15